Hey friends, welcome back to the house for another drink. This week we are going to cover what I will call is a bonus from our little spirit challenge that Dana and I made to each other during our Florida visit. While we were in Total Wine, we wanted to pick up another Japanese whiskey to kind of go along with what we discovered from the Akashi Ume video. And since we really liked that, we wanted to continue to explore that region and what other spirits they had from different distilleries. And we ran across this. So this is Shimauta or Shimauta. Now this is the Ryukyu whiskey. Have to slow it down just a little bit. There's just too many Y's and U's in there.
Yeah, it's a lot of syllables, but you can scream it angry. Ryukyu!
It's like I'm in a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost gotta
video.
do my.
So this is one where it wasn't until we got back to Ohio and I started trying to find history on it that I began to piece together that this is a Total Wine Spirits Direct. What that means for us is we can't bring you any really awesome history of this specific distillery.
Yeah.
Typically what happens is Total Wine and other large distributors of spirits in the United States, they will go to smaller distilleries, smaller distributors internationally, and buy a lot of bulk items from them, put it in a special bottle, slap a Spirits Direct label on it, call it whatever they would like, and then market it to us Americans. So with that, the art and the people and the history of that distillery just kind of get shuffled behind the scenes and boiled down to about 2 or 3 different sentences, either printed on a card in the store or available on the website. So what I've been able to piece together, we're going to talk about. So the Shimauta, this is our own pronunciation of the label. And what I found was the Shimauta, sorry, now I'm doing it. The Shimauta is the pronunciation of the kanji that they printed on the box. So what do we know about it? It is a 100% rice whiskey.
Yep.
Rice is the only grain in the whiskey.
And the box says single grain whiskey 10 years. Mm-hmm. So that in itself attracted us a little bit.
That and the pretty flowers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of the decorations. It was very colorful. It was very much, I was drawn to it because it was not...
It wasn't just blah. Yeah, I mean, it really calls to you when you're looking at it. The colors, the artwork is beautiful.
And the price point wasn't too terrible either.
No, it's right in line with what we typically...
A little higher.
Maybe just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad though. So, whiskey by definition is just a distilled liquor made from fermented mash of cereal grains and then aged in wooden containers. Now, rice is a cereal grain, and this was aged in wooden containers, which makes this 100% rice mash aged spirit whiskey by definition.
Legalism.
Legal, yes. Now, rice whiskey typically starts out as shoshu. And if you recall from our previous video, the Akashi Ume that we did, that is shoshu. And shoshu is a distilled spirit made from rice, but there's a special process as opposed to sake. Some of that stuff we actually covered in that Ume video. Now, rice is first polished to remove the bitter starches, steamed, and then a special kind of mold is added to aid in the fermentation process.
You lost me. It sounded really nice.
I know.
You know, you polish the rice grains, you cook them.
and then throw in some mold. Disgusting. Just disgusting. But science!
Science. I have to wonder who created this science, because Shoshu has a very, very old history.
Yeah, how they stumbled upon that process, that mixture to making something so good.
I think it had to have come down to necessity. You know, the new kid left the steamed rice out too long and it just molded. So they went ahead and just distilled it anyway.
It's possible. It is certainly possible. Now, this koji is a variety of aspergillus and increases the citric acid and creates smoother, mellower flavors, and an end product, as well as increasing the sugar content in prep for the fermentation. Now, after a couple of days, yeast is then added to start the fermentation process. Now, shoshu mash, or maromi, goes through 2 fermentations, and those stages actually happen before being distilled and either served directly as shoshu or aged and sold as whiskey in the US.
So take some rice, polish it, steam it, mold it for a few days.
Mold it, yeah.
Ferment it twice, and then distill it. You have shoshu.
You have shoshu.
Sounds like I've got to pick up a bottle of shoshu at some point. So here's where I think our bottle here is a little different. I don't think that this is aged shoshu. There are little clues hidden in the box and the Total Wine website. So the website mentions that Shimauta comes from Okinawa. Okinawa, Japan is pretty significant, but most people have heard of Okinawa.
Yeah.
Total Wine also talks about how this particular product is, quote, made from 100% premium indica rice and aged 10 years in new white oak casks. So, for any rice experts out there, indica rice is not native to Japan.
No.
No. So Okinawa is known for a very specific indigenous spirit called awamori. And it's similar to shoshu, but it differs in 4 different ways. So it uses only the long grain Thai indica rice. It uses only the black koji, the Aspergillus awamori. So within the shoshu kojis, there's actually 4 different colors that you could use, and awamori only uses the black.
Okay.
It also only has 1 fermentation instead of 2 to make shoshu. And also, it has a much higher alcohol content than shoshu.
Okay.
So given that this is 43%, it's coming from Okinawa. Okinawa has this rich history. I'm being told this is made from indica rice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that this is actually aged awamori. So awamori has a long history in Okinawa. Okinawa is one of the key trading centers, like international trade, dating back in Japanese history. So as a result of all of that trade, they started learning from other cultures how to make new ways to get drunk. And dating back to the 15th century, they started making awamori in Okinawa using imported Thai rice.
Interesting.
So awamori has to be aged for at least 3 years before they'll call it kusu.
Okay.
Or old liquor.
Okay.
And here's another really neat thing that I found is that before World War II, there actually used to be kusu that was as old as like over 300 years.
Wow.
So you've got 15th century kusu sitting in tunnels in Okinawa before World War II, and then of course the Battle of Okinawa. comes in and all of it gets destroyed.
Mm.
But that history, that craft lives on the island of Okinawa, and they still make awamori today.
That's very cool.
So, because it comes from Okinawa, because it's indica rice, because it's aged for 10 years, and those are the reasons why I think this is actually kusu.
Okay. So it just shows that we need to get more variety and be able to really compare to see what is truly what.
Right. Right.
All right.
So, Total Wine advertises that this has a sweet and buttery palate with notes of caramel, toasted wood, licorice, and spices like cinnamon and clove.
It's all over the place.
And a long finish of spice that brings back the sweetness.
Okay. I think it's something that anybody can just throw into a description nowadays. But it really comes down to the individual palate and what they
A
taste.
sweet and buttery palate, I think, would come from the rice. And the caramel, toasted wood, licorice, all those spice profiles would come from the oak.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. They're just reading what it is and then going, oh yeah, here's the tasting notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to give it a taste for yourself?
Absolutely. Let's see if it's accurate, at least from our palate.
So that is a very beautiful product.
No wrapping on these, but very similar as the Akashi
It's
Ume.
the Akashi.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Same bottle shape.
very nice color to it.
It did note that there's no colorant added, that this is a natural product. So if you pick up a bottle of this yourself, you may experience a different color.
Well, it's definitely darker than
The ume.
the Ume.
Yes.
Yes. I poured substantially
Some heavy
more.
pours.
Goodness. This is really nice. So the second one, I smell more of the charred oak.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one was very light smell.
Not a really
And now
heavy
it's just
smell.
kind of settled a little bit. Yeah, it's a very light smell.
I do get hints of that caramel and the wood for sure.
Yeah.
It smells like a whiskey,
Yes.
but not necessarily any of the whiskeys that we've had. Like it's just there's something else to it.
Yeah. It doesn't have a strong liquor smell to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I like. Cheers.
That is a very different flavor for whiskey.
You know what throws me for a loop with this? The entry is very smooth and light.
Mm-hmm.
On the back end, suddenly the spices kick in on the way down.
I taste the caramel more on the end than I do in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, when I say light, it's probably more of that rice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could describe it as buttery because it is smooth, but then the spices kick in.
There's a flavor that I pick up in the front that I can't exactly place. And I would have to say that that's probably because this is a 100% rice grain mash. Like this is my first time having one. So sipping on other whiskeys, I can pick up, you know, different grains and some of the different grain profiles, but this is my first time having all rice.
This is really good.
And that flavor that I can't place is not off-putting either. It's just a little different. and then it goes into that spice profile. It's smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, like a typical whiskey on that back end, but very little warmth to it. It's very, very little. So this would be very enjoyable with sipping on. I wouldn't even cut this. No ice. This just really smooth and light. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I actually like it. And it is just, it's so much different.
He likes it!
Than the Ume. And compared to the Ume, which was more sweeter, this doesn't have that.
It was a little brighter, I think. And this is a much more mellower, I think. And that may also come from the age as well, being aged for 10 years.
Yeah. If you have a total wine close to you, there is a very high probability that you'll be able to get your hands on this. So that is one big plus.
It is.
To it compared to a small distillery that really doesn't distribute widely.
And unfortunately, because it's a Spirits Direct, you won't be able to find this specific bottle unless you're at a Total Wine.
Yeah, yeah. And Total Wine's in a lot of places. So
just not Ohio.
yeah, we do have to drive to Kentucky in order to be able to access Total Wine.
Bootlegging!
But this is really nice. Well, if you are a fan of smooth aged whiskey with light flavor to it, definitely recommend this one to pick up. If you have picked this up already and tried it, drop us a comment, let us know your thoughts on it as well. But I'm excited to continue to explore down this path and see what else we can get. Maybe we can compare it to some of the things we learned through this one and see really does it stand up to what they stated.
Absolutely.
Also, if you happen to be a fan of any of the Japanese whiskeys that we've covered or others that you've had that you'd like for us to try to seek out, let us know so we can really try to focus on which ones to get and try out. And if you like the exploration that we're kind of taking you on, let us know. Hit that like button, drop us a comment. We certainly appreciate it. Good for tonight? Feel better?
I'll feel better when this is gone.
I may pour a little bit more. This is really, really good.
Cheers.
Cheers. Till next time, stay safe, take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.